When I think back over the last few months of land battles, I do see a certain trend emerging, and that is the dominance in many ways of cavalry, which is kind of surprising. You know, for a long time in Total War Warhammer, cavalry has had the reputation of being somewhat limp in Warhammer 2, and even in Warhammer 3 there have been some problems at times. But currently, as I think through the different rosters, there are at least one or two cavalry units on every single roster that are either very cost-effective or very strong, or both, honestly. And in today's clash, we're going to see two factions that you might not necessarily think of as cavalry factions go at it with some of the most high-powered and strongest cavalries in the game. Again, Dark Elves, not really a cavalry faction that you might think of, but their Cold One and Cold One Dread Knights both are pretty solid right now. Of course, they've also got really good light cavalry in the Dark Riders. They're actually some of the best light cavalry in the game, in my opinion, due to their cost effectiveness. And the Dragon also helps in that mobility phase. It's kind of adjacent to cavalry, right? These mobile monsters, and especially mobile monstrous lords, can support cavalry very well. So we'll kind of watch that here. We've got, two Dread Knights, and it looks like three Cold One Knights, couple of Dark Riders, and a front line of Dread Spears. Makes a lot of sense against the Ogres. Try and get as much anti-large infantry as you can, although no halberds. Instead, just spears for the Ogres here. Noblars as front line. We've got some Trappers, and then, of course, some Bulls, and regular Bulls, and Iron Fists. Then for Cavalry, we've got some Crushers, great weapons, non-regiment renown, but a couple of Mournfang Cavalry Iron Fists as well. This essentially gives them a shield and missile block chance. Not the best, only 20%, but definitely helps. And additional melee defense and whatnot. So let's get things rolling. We've also got some Saber Tusk pack here as well. Again, War Beasts are kind of cavalry adjacent, so when you think about something like Warriors of Chaos, right, their Chaos Knights Sword and Shield are very good right now. Then, of course, they've got the Hounds to support them as kind of a light cavalry type unit. Even though they don't technically count as large, but still. We're going to see both players kind of yellow in a little bit here into the front line. The Ogres are likely going to get the worst end of this engagement initially, although in some pockets they might be able to locally win out. Like here, where there's just the one Dread Spear on Noblars and Bulls, probably will lose, but Dark Elves have a nice numbers advantage because the Ogres are kind of fighting stacked in the front line. Allows a lot of their cavalry to get loose in the second line. Not that there's a lot of very high value units to take out here, but some nice countercharging from the Ogres. Those Crushers going to get in there and just annihilate some of those Cold Ones. And over on the opposite side as well, here, these Crushers, or sorry, Mournfangs, Iron Fist 2v1, despite their lack of anti-large, are going to absolutely massacre the Cold One Knights. So some nice back and forth. We're going to keep a wide view, as with these cavalry fights. There's generally a lot going on all over the place. Dark Elves starting to collapse the right flank of the Ogres and bring some of these other units in for a little rear charge here. Both the Dread Knights and Cold One Knights enveloping these two Mournfangs, so a nice engagement potentially for Dark Elves, but they don't have any infantry support there, and here all the infantry support buckles, so it looks like they might pull away. Meanwhile, on the back line, Supreme Sorceress dropping down. We've got the Cold One Dread Knights also engaging. Murderous Prowess pops off super early. I mean, 2 minutes into the battle and you're already getting Murderous Prowess. Is going to be advantageous, actually. It seems like a pretty critical point in the battle, so let's get a little bit of cinematics at least. You guys can watch these Cold Ones, who normally are quite large, just being absolutely outmatched by those Crushers. But again, the Murderous Prowess does help to a degree. Let's see here. Looks like this cavalry component kind of just gets crushed here. Eventually, the Mournfang cavalry are able to hold out. Decent melee defense. I mean, 30 to 9 melee defense. Definitely solid for a shock cavalry. Let's see. Dark Elves are definitely crafty. Got nasty Soul Stealer blob potential here. And it does look like that gets popped. That's going to do massive damage to all these units and heal that dragon back up. The Dragon Lady herself is going to be an absolute force to be reckoned with. So as long as she still has enough support on the ground alive, she can definitely come in and swing some of these fights. But we'll see. Definitely has to be careful about where she lands right now. The Crusher is kind of being bogged down here a little bit, getting separated from too much support. Potentially problematic. Dragon also drops down. It's going to get a quick tear route on these Mournfangs. The Cold One Knights can clean them up and start to kind of outnumber this one remaining Mournfang. Not to mention, of course, the Ogre Lord is going to be at significant danger of getting sniped by the Dragon Lady here. Supreme Sorceress getting some nice noms into the big belly of the Ogre. but also a little bit of stutter-stepping animation issues there. But Dark Elves coming in for kind of a third wave attack here are getting some good envelopments, outnumbering significantly the Crushers and the Mournfangs. So Dark Elves look like they have some potential to swing things back here, but let's wait and see how things play out. Dark Elf units generally quite squishy, and this is a reason why I would probably give this matchup on paper slight advantage to the Ogres. Like, even in this Cavalry matchup, we can check after the fact what their base HPs are, but I would imagine, especially given Ogre's capacity to heal their Cavalry, that they're generally going to have a pretty distinct HP advantage in a fight like this. But let's see, Supreme Sorceress trying to disengage, get back up in the air here. Trying to avoid those Crushers if at all possible. Another nice Soul Stealer going off, though, so maybe she can just stand and fight here. Try to take the damage while she heals it. But no, again, trying to disengage as best she can. Looks like the Crushers actually dropped their attack order there. No, ooh, just barely not get the counter charge there. Cold One Knights are probably dead anyway, just due to their sheer melee stats. Yeah, it looks like they are going to, in fact, get killed there. Dark Elves doing their best in the periphery to try and chase some routing units off with these Dark Riders, and as a result, the balance of power is starting to shift in their favor. Cold One Knights as well, just keeping these routed units fleeing as much as possible. We are going to see some healing, though, on the Crushers. Only 6 unit models left, but still plenty of capacity to heal. And a nice Troll Guts pop there. Significant amount of healing displaced onto them. Nice breath attack, though, and since the healing was put onto the Crushers, you can be sure that it's not going to go on the Slaughtermaster. And we'll see. The Supreme Sorceress might choose to just duck down in here and swipe him out real quick, but it's going to be quite vulnerable considering there's still some Mournfangs and Bulls around. The Crushers are a little bit far away. Maybe it was an opportunity to dive while they were a bit separated, but now the Ogre player seeing that's going to bring it back in here. I believe this is Rocket Rue, if I'm not mistaken. We'll have to check after the fact. Forgot to actually double check beforehand, which I often do, but that's okay. Yeah, Ogre player here doing exactly what he should, though, which is to keep everything tight, not get separated out, trying to go after these various mobility units. It's honestly fine just to let the Dark Elves kind of chew up these tattered routing units and not really care too much about trying to salvage them. You know, it's going to take time and vigor, and if the Ogres kind of just stand put, which you can under tournament rules, you don't necessarily have to pursue if you don't have the ability or the speed to do so. You can just kind of stand. But yeah, it's going to be recovering some vigor here, and significantly on like the Crushers and some of these other Cavalry units that are going to be rising above exhausted. You can see already very tired, but does have to be a little bit careful. Some Soul Stealer, a little bit of damage output there. Nothing too insane, but again, if I were a Dark Elf player here, I would just be swooping constantly, looking for openings, and basically as soon as the Cavalry gets too separated, you just smack the Slaughtermaster and get him off the field as soon as possible. Will cause significant leadership issues in these other units, which they might have anyway. Let's see if Terror kicks in, or no, just regular old routes. I guess Massacre was used here, so it actually makes all these units immune to Terror since they cause it themselves. The Fist Bump spell there being used also to do a little bit of AoE damage, actually shatters these Cavalry units. Cold One Knights Terror route due to the Massacre, and that little swing there is pretty decisive. It does get rid of permanently a lot of the support units with Dark Elves. Not that there was a lot of HP left there anyway, but still, it's going to leave the Dragon Lady pretty much on her own here. If we take a look at the whole battlefield, just this one unit of Dread Knights, really. So yeah, it's going to be tough. We'll see. Ooh, Dragon Lady kind of feints the charge there. She might have actually gotten the attack off on the Slaughtermaster and been able to rout him. In which case, probably like these Mournfangs and these Ogre Bulls and everything, except maybe the Crushers immediately Terror routes. Old One Dread Knights could then perhaps rear charge in. I don't know. It's all big hypothetical. I believe probably the Slaughtermaster would have gotten killed there. I mean, maybe not. He's got 900 HP. It would take at least a couple of attacks to deal with him. 320 weapons, or sorry, 520 weapon strength. Yeah, at least 2 attacks. With the armor only being 40, a lot of that non-AP damage is going to get through, so yeah, we'll call it that. But let's see here. Ooh, with the charge bonus active, yep, 1 attack, and 2, he is still alive, actually. Soul Stealer, it looks like, oh, there he's gone. Now the Soul Stealer kicks in. Let's see if it's enough to actually tear out these units. Yep, Mournfang Cavalry pops, the Saber Tusk pops. The Crushers, ooh, are they going to hold their leadership? They tear out as well, and right at the last second, the Dark Elves win on leadership. So actually, Anti-Kaiju playing the Ogres, Rocket Roo playing the Dark Elves. Very well played to both players. Definitely a kind of unexpected cavalry battle. Again, these two factions are not... I mean, Ogres, certainly Crushers at the very least, are probably the strongest individual cavalry unit in the game. But, yeah, again, I wouldn't necessarily think of these two as cavalry factions, but it ends up being quite a fun battle here between the Mournfangs and the Cold Ones. Cold Ones certainly were more heavily invested in, and some of them end up paying out. Dread Knights, at least in one case, 213 kills, almost 1,400 damage value, 20,000 damage dealt nearly overall. Pretty good stuff. Also, this Cold One Knight here, 1,164, 8,481 damage dealt. Pretty good stuff. Spears, of course, are going to be reasonably cost-effective here, fighting Ogres, and the Dragon Sorceress also carries quite a bit of value as well. Great job by these Dark Riders cleaning up routing units and making sure Anti-Kaiju couldn't get enough support back, and just barely losing out there at the end. I mean, yeah, on the one hand, I definitely agree with healing the Crushers in the endgame there, but at the same time, the Slaughtermaster himself was so low, might have been worth it to try and heal himself, so that the leadership issues weren't as much of a problem. I mean, obviously, the Crushers probably would have been lost out at that point, and then, you know, what killing power do you actually have to finish off the Dragon Sorceress? So it's a really tough decision. I just, yeah, I don't know. From my perspective, I probably would have healed the Lord as a priority, but love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. In general, both armies are going to be largely fairly cost-effective overall, so yeah, it's a fun battle for sure. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. And if you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.